Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranids. I know it's been a while, we were waiting for the Tyranid Codex to arrive and I wanted to get through it and read it up before actually doing any more videos or reviews. But today we're going to be talking about one of the new detachments that are within the Tyranid Codex, and we're talking about the Crusher Stampede. So we're going to be going through all the things, all the uses that the Crusher Stampede detachment can bring us as Tyranid players. So we're going to get into that, but before we do, a little word from our sponsors. So this video is brought to you by Manscaped.com, the premium global brand for men's grooming and hygiene. Now Manscaped have just launched their 4th generation of lawnmower. This is the 4.0 and it's designed for groin grooming. So I'm excited to share this with you today. So we're going to unbox this and show you what we're all about here. So this trimmer is basically a waterproof trimmer and it is cordless. The craftsmanship of this lawnmower 4.0 is pretty impressive. It's got the ceramic blades with skin-safe technology that's going to help reduce nicks and cuts to your ball bag. As mentioned, it is cordless and it's waterproof, so you can be taking this in the shower. And in terms of the charge, well, you get 90 minutes of charge, so plenty of time to have a trim. You can customize your preferred hair length with 4 trimmer guard options. And there's even a travel lock feature just in case this thing goes off in your luggage. So come and join me and over 9 million other men worldwide who trust Manscaped when it comes to grooming solutions for the modern man. They've got other products such as the ball deodorant, the ball toner and the ball wipes. Manscaped makes it easier to take care of your pair and look after your family jewels. So use discount code PlanetK20, that's PlanetK20 to get a 20% discount on your order of the Lawnmower 4.0, and this will include free shipping. So the link will be down in the description below and it's manscaped.com. What are you waiting for? So that is manscaped.com, check them out in the description down below. Right, let's get on to the Crusher Stampede, one of the new detachments. In fact, before breaking into that, we need to just speak about what's in this codex. There's going to be a total of 6 detachments, 5 of them are new. One of them is what we had from the launch, from the index launch, which was the Invasion High Fleet. Now, all the detachments are keeping the main army rule, which is the Shadow in the Warp, as well as Synapse. So all 6 of those attachments have those still in place, but we're replacing the hyper adaptations, which was the Invasion Fleet rule, detachment rule, and this is what we're going to be getting. So we're going to be getting what is called Enraged Behemoths. Now this is what it does. So I'm going to read this out on my screen. Each time a Tyranid's monster model from your army makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if that model's unit is below starting strength, and add 1 to the room roll as well if that model's unit is below half strength. So for this is only going to be applying to monsters, so this is going to try and push for us to be building monster mash lists. But so that means also the non-monsters are not going to have any effect from this ability. So +1 to hit if they're below starting strength. So if they've lost 1 single model on a unit, then it's a +1 to hit. Or if it's a 1 model unit, if they've lost 1 single wound, then they're they're below starting strength, so therefore it's a +1 to hit on those. If they're below half strength, a +1 to the wound roll. So that's going to interact with, well, a lot of different monsters within our codex. I was going to say index, but we're on the codex now. Let's get into the enhancements, and then at the end of the video, well, we'll talk about the enhancements, stratagems, then talk about some sort of pros and cons to having this detachment rather than some of the others. So enhancements, let's begin with those. We've got the first one, which is on, what is it? Ominous Presence. I was trying to get my words out there. Ominous Presence is 15 points, and it's a +3 to our objective control for 1 monster. Now that might be pretty good on, say, a Flying Hive Tyrant because of the speed. It's got a 12-inch movement, and then it's going to have OC6 rather than OC3, and it's got Deep Strike as well, don't forget. So that could be a good little thing that we could do with the Flyrant. I mean, we're going to Deep Strike him in. Maybe even make a charge move, get onto an objective, OT6, and it's going to swing. So you're likely going to clear out an objective, and maybe you're going to be getting the enemy strong points, or capture enemy outposts is the thing I'm talking about, or attempting target, those kind of secondary objectives and primary objectives as well, don't forget. So it can have a use for that for 15 points. The second one is Enraged Reserves. This one is 20 points. And Once your monster has died on a 3+, he can still fight before being removed. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I mean, 20 points is a lot. Second of all, it's on a 3+, so you've got a chance of actually failing that. Third of all, it's only going to apply if you've already not fought that phase, I believe. I'm going to double check that. Let me get my codex. 2 seconds. Because that's important. So it's important, isn't it? Yeah, if it has not fought this phase. So, I mean, there's a chance that you've already fought. That's the problem with that. If you've already fought, then this is a completely useless piece of kit. It's only when you get charged or you're going up against fight first and things like that, and then you die before fighting, and it's on a 3+. I don't like it. I don't like it. Null Nodes is 10 points. It's the cheapest one out of the 4. It's a 5+ feel no pain save against psychic attacks for 1 phase per battle. Let me go back to that because that just stinks. I'm not going to lie, that absolutely stinks. I need to check my word on that as well because that just seems so weird. It's until the end of the phase. Yeah, I want to keep that page open. Until the end. So it's only active for 1 phase and it's a 5+ feel no pain save and it's only active against psychic attacks. Now this should have just been a 5+ feel no pain save outright. Maybe against psychic attacks outright for every battle round, but for 1 single phase? Really? That stinks. That stinks. I know it's only 10 points, and maybe if you're 10 points shy at the end of your list and there's nothing else you can buy, then throw it on. But yeah, for me, no good. No good. You've then got... In fact, continuing on with that, this one and the previous one, the death on a 3+, you get to fight. Both of those only happen for 1 particular moment in the entire battle. So they both stink, yeah. The last one, Monstrous Nemesis, 25 points. It's a +1 to wound versus monsters and vehicles. Probably one of the better ones out of the 4. It's 25 points for it, so it is the most expensive. Now, the problem I've got with this is actually going to clash with our new detachment rule, which was Enraged Behemoths, because you can get a +1 to the wound roll if they're below half strength. Now, of course, you can kind of plan to not do it, I suppose, but if you've got the unit below half strength and you've got this enhancement on, you can't get +2 to wound because it is capped at -1 or +1. So one of them is redundant. So either your detachment ability or your enhancement will become redundant at that particular moment. But a +1 to wound versus monsters and vehicles in general is okay. It's just a weird interaction with the detachment roll. So that is the enhancements. I'm not too impressed, to be honest. I don't think I would want any of them. The 3+ on the OC, maybe. If I had points spare, I'd rather just spend my points on more units if I can, rather than take these enhancements. But let's look at the stratagem. Let's go into these new stratagems that relate to this particular detachment. So bearing in mind now that the invasion fleet stratagems that you know of, like Adrenal Surge and all that, that does not apply to this detachment. So get them out of your head. The same with those enhancements. Adaptive biology, all those kind of stuff. That does not work with this detachment. So these are the ones that do work with these. Crusher Stampede. No, that's the... Start that again. Corrosive Viscera. It's 1 command point. You're doing it in your opponent's shooting phase or any of the fight phases just after a Tyranid model from your army with the Deadly Demise ability has been destroyed. And it can't have the fly keyword either. So let's say you've got a Hive Tyrant, a Swarm Lord. They've got Deadly Demise. They've just been destroyed. And what you do is you, instead of rolling for the Deadly Demise ability, you just automatically blow up. And so the mortal wounds are going to go out to units within 6 inches. This is actually pretty decent on the big Titanic models, your big stuff. Some of them have got like 2d6 Deadly Demise. You just got to be a bit careful, a bit mindful of hurting your own units because they will also be affected by this large bomb, or this explosion, I suppose. But yeah, can be very useful, especially if your unit is surrounded and gets taken out. So that's the first one. The second one is Rampaging Monstrosities for 1 command point. And it's in the fight phase, any of the fight phases there. 1 Tyranid monster from your army that has not been selected to fight this phase. And you effectively get to re-roll your hit rolls. Just re-roll all your hit rolls. Bearing in mind you're already going to get a +1 to the hit roll if they're below starting strength with the detachment roll. So +1 to hit and you're re-rolling. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you don't really want to combine the two. Well, you can, I suppose, you can. But if you're already hitting on 2s, you're not missing many anyway. I mean, some units hit on 4s, so don't get me wrong there, but some hit on 2s. It also saves you from taking, for example, Old One Eye. Old One Eye is a leader for Carnifexes, and when he goes in that unit, he can give the unit reroll hit rolls. So you could, instead of taking Old One Eye, save the points and just use this stratagem on your Carnifexes on the 2 models. Because you actually target one Tyranid monster, but it actually affects the entire unit. So you could do it that way. The third one is Savage Roar, 1 command point. Any of the fight phases just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Tyranid monster that is selected as a target, yep, we know that bit. That enemy must take a battle shock test, and until the end of the phase, each time a model in the enemy unit makes an attack, it's a -1 to their hit roll. And if they're battle shocked, well, if they fail their battle shock test, it's -1 from their wound roll as well. This one goes under the radar. I think it's a pretty decent one. It's a good layer of defense, first of all, because you're going to get the -1 to the hit roll. That's happening no matter what. You're then forcing battle shock, which has its own benefits. If they fail battle shock, then they're not going to be able to use any stratagems on their unit. They're also going to lose their objective control. So any secondaries that relate to their cards, or any secondary cards they're trying to score at the end of their turn, maybe they've just messed that up because they've now lost their OC, and you're going to have OC on your units. And also, if they do fail the battle shock, it's a -1 to their wound roll as well. So this stratagem is a pretty decent one, and it can really catch your opponent out. But yeah, at the very worst, the worst case scenario for us Tyranid players is a -1 to their hit rolls against our units. That's even in itself, that's not too bad. The next one we got Untrammeled Furiosity. It's 1 command point. This one you're using it in your movement phase now, just our movement phase alone. So one Tyranid monster that has not been selected to move this phase. Until the end of the phase, we can move through enemy models as if they were friendly models, and we can also use the Desperate Escape tests. We ultimately pass them. Now you've got to bear this part in mind. There are still restrictions here that people seem to forget. So when you're talking about moving through friendly models, you need to remember friendly monsters and vehicles cannot move through other friendly monsters and vehicles. So if you are playing against monsters and vehicles, and of course we're going to have monsters because this is a Monster Mash Stampede, Crusher Stampede list, so we cannot be using this stratagem to move through other enemy monsters and vehicles. Just bear that one in mind, there is still restrictions in place. But it could be pretty good for storming through screens, light infantry screens. If you're going up against my Necrons and maybe some Scarabs in the way, you just go straight through them as if they weren't there. And then you're going to be doing as long as you can end your movement past the unit, then you could be charging into the juicier stuff, and that's a real problem for your enemy. So that's a decent one, I like that one. The next one is Swarm Guided Salvos. 1 command point in your shooting phase. One Tyranid monster from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, they've got Ignores Cover, and they're not going to have they're basically ignoring any modifiers to the ballistic skill or their hit rolls. So this one, cover only really has an effect against AP, so if you've got 0 AP weapons, don't even bother. There's just no point, because cover doesn't apply. Unless, it's only when they've got a 3+ armor, I suppose. Because it will still apply if they've got a 4+ armor, it can go to a 3+. But if they've got a 3+ armor, it can't be taken to a 2+. But weapons that we've got that would be used with the stratagem, for example, your Venom Cannons, Stranglethorn Cannons, a lot of ranged psychic attacks have AP. The Exocrine Cannon, I can't remember what it's called now, the Exocrine Cannon, that's definitely got AP, I think it's -3, something like that. You've got the Tyrannofex Acid Spray and the Rupture Cannon, they've got AP. So use all these kind of weaponries on this stratagem to basically ignore cover, and you're not having any modifiers to our hit roll. That's okay, a little bit situational, but keep it up your sleeve. Then the last one we got is Massive Impact, 1 command point to the raw 1 CP, that's good, nice and easy. Epic Deed stratagem, in your charge phase, just after you've ended your charge move, you select one enemy unit that is within engagement range of your model, you roll 6d6, and for every 4+, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. So on average you're going to get 3 mortal wounds. This is effectively tank shock for monsters. I think there should have been a stratagem in the core rulebook to give monsters some sort of charging battering ram kind of style stratagem, similar to tank shock. I think it's a little bit unfair that monsters didn't get that, but at least the Tyranids have been given this stratagem, so in a way it's kind of good because other factions with monsters don't have this stratagem, whereas we do. But yeah, you're going to be throwing out 3 mortal wounds on average. You might get lucky and get all 6, you might get unlucky, roll none, but 1 CP, I think it's decent. I quite like it, pretty good. Let's move into the pros and the cons for using the Crusher Stampede as opposed to using other detachments within the Necrons again, within the Tyranids Codex, get it right, bang. Within the Tyranids Codex, I've been doing too many Necron videos lately. Right, pros. Monster Mash is themed and it's fun. We all like playing Monster Mash, we love bringing out all the big hitters, your Swarm Lords, your Hive Tyrants, your Carnifexes, your Morlocks, Trigons. We all love that kind of stuff. The Exocrine, Tyrannofex, Horusfex. We've got plenty of monsters within our codex, and it can be fun. It can be fun. There's a lot of big bugs that we've got, and a lot of them are competitive. Now some of them aren't. Something like the Toxicrene, for example, not really that competitive, but the Horusfex or the Hive Tyrant, Swarm Lord, they're all competitive. So it does keep us in a bit of an area where monsters are useful, so we're sort of keeping into that bracket. And we've got decent stratagems. I was quite impressed with some of the stratagems that we had. All 6 of them were pretty good. I can relate them all to, you know, competitive play, so I'm quite happy with the stratagems. As for the cons, the detachment roll I think is pretty bad. It's a +1, it should be a +1 to hit army wide just from the get-go, but it's a +1 to hit against units that are not at starting strength. That little part there I didn't like. I mean, does it mean we've got to mix it up, have some shooty and some melee, and then we shoot first at, you know, hitting on normal ballistic skill, and the charging units get to have a +1 or even a +1 to the wound roll as well? Maybe that's the way to do it. I just don't like it. Not that keen on that. I mean, a lot of our units are actually hitting on 2s anyway. I'd say not quite half, but the main characters are hitting on 2s, so they don't really need a +1. You've got the monsters that are at range, shooting at range with the heavy keywords. Some of them are going to be hitting on 2s because of heavy. And also Old One Eye, as we mentioned earlier on, he's given full rerolls, which I know that's not the same as a +1, but full rerolls is normally enough. It's normally enough. We've got non-monsters get virtually nothing, so if you bring some Zoanthropes or you bring some Gene Stealers, they're getting absolutely no buffs whatsoever from playing this detachment, so redundant. We've got the Monster Mash lacks scoring power. Because you're investing so many points in all these monsters, you've got less scoring units. Now, of course, you can still take them, but like we just mentioned in the previous point, those units that you're taking to score points aren't gaining any buffs and bonuses. So yes, you could take some Von Ryan's Leapers, but they're not gaining any buffs. So that's a problem in itself. The enhancements, I think they were pretty poor. They were awful, in fact. I mean, there was one that clashed with the main ability. I didn't like that at all. And finally, we could just use monsters in other detachments. We've got 5 other detachments that are perfectly fine to use monsters, and your entire army list is going to probably gain benefits, including the monsters. So I would prefer to just use other detachments over the Crusher Stampede. So as an overview for the Crusher Stampede, am I impressed with this one detachment? No. Is it fun and themed? Yes, it is fun and themed. If you're playing a friendly game against your friends, maybe just a chill game, you're not playing in a competitive tournament, then yeah, bring it. It's fun, it's cool. Competitively, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with this. You've just got better options, and yeah, I would definitely look at the other detachments. But guys, what do you think? Do you like the Crusher Stampede? Where do you place it in terms of competitiveness with the other detachments? Let me know down in the comments below, and also don't forget to subscribe on your exits. Guys, don't forget to look at Manscaped as well, and yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time.